is the grandson of Uzziah. We talked about him last week, didn't we? We talked about Uzziah, who had done a marvelous work for God, and he got in trouble trying to approach the altar without a mediator. But God restrained him, didn't he? And God disciplined him, and God chastised him, and God sent him away as a leper, but God didn't kill him. What we learned in that account is this: the spirit of Antichrist is working everywhere he can to destroy Jesus. Believe you me, he was walking with the disciples for 3.5 years. He invaded the heart of Judas Iscariot. He tempted Peter, James, and John. He crucified Christ. So don't think that you're safe anywhere but in Jesus. And so our account tells us that after Uzziah dies, godly Uzziah, stumbling Uzziah, his son takes his place. If you note, his son takes his place over in chapter 15. His son takes his place, and he does a great job. Don't go there. Stay at chapter 16. He does a wonderful job of upholding the gospel and the restoration that Uzziah had done. But shortly after him, Ahaz takes over. Now listen to what it says as it opens. Verse 1. In the 17th year of Pekah, the son of Remaliah, Ahaz, the son of Jotham, king of Judah, began to reign. Do you see that? Now look at how old he was. He was 20 years old when he began to reign. He reigned 16 years in Jerusalem and did not that which was right in the sight of the Lord his God, like David his father. Folks, you know we're in trouble now, aren't we? Listen to what it says. But he walked in all the ways of the what? Kings of Israel. Yea, and he made his sons to pass through the fire, according to the abominations of the heathen, whom the Lord cast out from before the children of Israel. And he sacrificed and burnt incense in the high places, on the hills, and under every green tree. For all intents and purposes, while he is a king in conservative Judah and Jerusalem, he's just like the liberal kings in Israel. Are you hearing me? He's worshiping idols just like they worship idols. And saints, he's passing his children through the fire. What kind of heart does a man have to burn up his children in the name of a false god? Pastor, you're shooting way over our head. This is when you give your children over to idolatry. This is when you allow your children to be consumed by the passions and the cares and the lust of this world. This is when you allow your children to be completely conformed after this world. This world is on hellfire. And I'm here to tell you, when you allow your children to be given over to this world system, you're passing your children through the fire. Can I help you? You're passing your children through the fire when you do not make a clear distinction between this Babylonian system, which is under God's judgment, and the truth of the gospel, where God's people live and abide and serve him. When you do not teach your children right from wrong, when you do not teach them what God's word says, when you just allow them to be taught and governed and controlled by this world system, you're offering them through the fire. You're offering them through the fire. Will you hear what I'm saying? You're offering them through the fire. Now, some of you know what I'm talking about. You know how I know you know? Because when your children start screaming as if they're in the fire, you realize you did the wrong thing. After many years of capitulating and being their friend instead of being their parents, and giving them over to materialism and the narcissistic me syndrome that has dominated our culture. And now we're trying to reverse that, aren't we? Because whereas our society said it was all right, now they're recognizing that it's not all right at all either. This here is your modern day Moloch worship when you give your children over to these things. Be sure of that. Be sure of that. And this king gives them over. Now God doesn't like it, and because God doesn't like it, what God does is sends enemies against him. Then King Rezin of Syria and Pekah, the son of Remaliah, king of Israel, came up to Jerusalem to war, and they besieged Ahaz, but could not overcome him. At that time, Rezin, king of Syria, recovered Elath, and Syria drave out the Jews in Elath, and Syria came to Elath and dwelt therein unto this day. So Ahaz sent messengers to the king of Assyria, saying, I am your servant and your son. come up and save me out of the hand of the king of Syria and out of the hand of the king of Israel, which rise up against me. Do you see what the king of Judah is doing? He's going to the secular pagan rulers for help against his enemies. He's yielding to the world's methodologies to try to solve his problems. Why is he doing that? Because he doesn't know the true and the living God. Now watch what happens. This is quite remarkable. Verse 7. So Ahaz sent messengers, verse 8. And Ahaz took the silver and the gold that was found in the house of the Lord and in the treasures of the king's house and sent presents to the king of Assyria. Look at what this man has done. He has taken the gold and silver of the house of God and sent it to the king of Assyria. You know what the king of Assyria knows? There's no God in Israel. There's no God in Judah. The God in Judah has no power. Not when his representative servant is giving me all the gold and silver. The kings of Assyria realize and believe that their gods are greater than the God in Judah and Jerusalem. Are you hearing what I'm saying? So then watch how this falls out. Because this is all the premise for which Josiah, his grandson, has to deal with this mess. Verse 9, the king of Assyria, hearing, hearkened unto him, for the king of Assyria went up against Damascus and took it, carried away the people captive to Kir. In other words, he interceded for Ahaz. Now watch this. Ahaz goes down to Assyria at Damascus to honor him for delivering him, and watch what occurs. He goes down to the king of Assyria, and he saw an altar that was at Damascus. And King Ahaz sent to Uriah the priest the fashion of the altar and the pattern of it according to all the workmanship thereof. And Uriah the priest built an altar according to all that the king Ahaz had sent to Damascus. So Uriah the priest made it against or for King Ahaz coming from Damascus. And when the king was come from Damascus, the king saw the altar. What altar? The altar that Uriah had built. The altar that he had requested to be built, which he saw in Assyria. He had that altar built and brought to Jerusalem. Now, will you watch what he does with it? The text tells us, when he saw it, the king approached the altar and offered thereon. He burnt his offering, his meat offering, poured his drink offering, sprinkled blood, peace offerings upon it. And then he brought also the brazen altar, which was before the Lord, from the front of the house, from between the altar and the house of the Lord, and put it on the north side of the altar. What did he do? Will you hear me? And only you who understand the tabernacle construction will get this. Only you who understand the gospel in the temple will get this. When men and